heebie-jeepsters to another episode of Heebie-Jeebies TV. Today is actually a very interesting episode. I like it very much because it has to do with indigenous stories. So it's actually about the Wendigo. A little history behind it. So it is very common in North America. It is known as an evil spirit to the indigenous peoples of Canada and the US. It is known to be very evil. It actually has the ability to possess people and do a lot of other nasty, evil things. When it does possess people, it's very, very strange actually. They say that it has a very strange appearance. So it almost looks like it's a decaying corpse, something that's dying. So it's very, very skinny, emaciated to be particularly correct. It has its bones very, like it's showing, and its skin is pulled over the bones, and it's very ashy gray looking. Its eyes are very sunken. It just essentially looks like someone who's starving to death, but creature-like, evil-like. So there's that, and it also has a very putrid, decaying smell to it too. So that I would like to say to all of you paranormal freaks out there, decaying smell, demon. Okay, so legend says that the reason why it goes after people is because essentially we're like its meal. As to whether it eats people or it's just eating the person's soul, we don't know. But the reason why it goes after people is because this is what nourishes it essentially. So that's why it always hunts and hunts. It's never satisfied. And it's actually a symbol of gluttony, which is pretty interesting too. So another demon sign. To begin, there's a very famous sighting. The person involved is called Emilio Sanchez. He is from Denver, Colorado. And as you would know about Colorado, it's very normal to be very outdoorsy, to spend a lot of time with nature. So like Emilio, he would do the exact same thing. His family had a cottage out in New Mexico, and they would spend a lot of time there on the vacations, family vacations. So in this cottage, this is where the spooky thing took place. Okay, so this time around, he was about 11 years old when he was at the cottage with his family. They were just spending time together, and his family actually wanted to go out fishing, but he didn't really feel like going, I'm guessing, so he stayed back inside the cabin alone. He was there doing whatever he was doing, and then he hears footsteps pulling up into the driveway or near around the house. He thought it might have been his mom or another family member coming back from the trip, so he kind of just went to the window to go see what it was, but he didn't see anything, which is a little creepy to be alone in the middle of the woods and not see anyone after hearing footsteps. Anyways, he kept looking, thinking he was gonna find something or someone, and he did find something. So he saw like some fog starting to form in the distance around his house, in the back actually, in the backyard section. And then what creeped him out the most was that he saw this creature that had deer legs. It had deer legs and a skull for a head, and then just sunken holes for eyes. So I don't know about you guys, but if I saw this, look at the picture, I would be mortified. What is that? What is it? I don't know. So he saw it, mortified, and then he actually was so scared that he decided to duck down underneath a windowsill and just hide from it. And then, guys, it started coming towards him. It started coming towards him. So he heard the footsteps coming towards the house, and then obviously he was still hiding, shaking, and then he actually heard it come around, started walking up the driveway, getting closer and closer and closer, closer and closer, and then he actually heard it get all the way up to in front of the door of the house, and then it stopped. And then he heard his mother's voice. So obviously it wasn't his mother there. This thing has the ability apparently to imitate other people so that you can be mistaken and open the door. Never open the door for evil things. 101, do not open the door if they come knocking. That just pretty much gives them permission to come in and do whatever they want in your life, which we do not want. So yes, so he heard the voice and it sounded like his mom, and he was very weirded out by it too, because if it were his mom, would she not be able to come into the house and open the door herself? Like, obviously you bring your keys with you, right? I mean, there's the off chance that she would have forgotten it, but this wasn't the case. So he heard it talking, asking to be let in. Obviously he didn't do it because he was still scared and he was hiding, but then it started to get angrier, more aggressive, the voice. It started escalating in tone, in sound, and then eventually it started banging on the door, like, and it just kept going and going, and he obviously ignored it until eventually it just stopped, and then he heard footsteps walk away. So then after a few moments of it being silent, he looks out the window again courageously and then finds nothing. So after this whole ordeal of it leaving his front doorstep, his parents and other family members ended up coming back home, and he asked them, did you guys hear anything? Did you see anything? Obviously they say no, so they all kind of just brushed it off as maybe it was a deer, maybe he was daydreaming or something. Essentially they brushed it off. So time went on, he didn't end up seeing it again for quite a while. 6 years passed, and then this time he was actually in Montana. So Montana, of course, again, lots of forests, bushy area. Okay, so he was there going for a hike in the trail that not many people actually knew about. Now that I'm saying this, I'm kind of hearing, why go to a place that's secluded when you've had experiences seeing these things? So anyways, he was out there alone in this trail going for a hike, and then out of nowhere he started getting this really odd feeling like something was watching him, and it actually ended up bringing back memories to the time in New Mexico at his cottage where he saw the Wendigo. He started getting these feelings again, and then he started looking around. He tried to brush it off, but he kept walking. And then as he got deeper and deeper, he actually ended up seeing it again. He thought it was a deer at first, or tried to make sense of it as a deer, but then he was like, no, this is the thing again that I saw 6 years back. And they made eye contact again, and they just had a stare down apparently. So they had a stare down, and this essentially went on for 10 minutes. I don't know how somebody could just stare at a creature being mortified for 10 minutes and not do anything, but I guess he went cold and frigid and just couldn't move. And then after 10 minutes, he decides to continue walking, and the thing also left too, which was really weird. After they were staring at each other for a while, he looked away for a little bit, and then it kind of just disappeared. So he obviously knew what it was. It was the same thing that I saw back in the day. And then he just kept going about his little hike in the trail, in the forest there. And then he eventually ended up deciding to make camp before it got too dark. And of course he was very scared of it showing itself again, maybe being malevolent this time. But anyways, he didn't end up seeing it again, but that night when he was camping, he actually did have a nightmare about it killing him. A few months later, now in Denver, where he's originally from, he actually ended up meeting his girlfriend at the time. Her name was Kelsey. And because things were getting serious, he obviously opened up about his encounters and decided to tell her the story, especially because they often ended up spending nights together. So he told her about it, and of course she was a little bit spooked. One of these nights where they ended up staying at each other's place, actually he stayed at her house in the middle of the night. 3 a.m. guys, 3 a.m. Anyways, they were there. He fell asleep at her place, and then in the middle of the night, she felt like there was pressure going on the bed. Like, you know, when you feel someone walking on the bed or getting into bed and kneeling down. So she felt that. She kind of thought that it was Emilio just moving around, but it wasn't him, of course. So she kind of just brushed it off, but it kept going and it kept going, and then she ended up looking, and then it stopped. So a few moments later, she actually started to feel some scratching on her legs, and then she started to get a little bit more worried, a little bit more scared. So then she looked again, and then it stopped. But this time she actually decided to wake up Emilio. But what was even creepier was that he wouldn't wake up. I don't know if he was succumbed into some deep sleep or some possession or something, but he would not wake up. So eventually things subsided. She ended up falling back asleep, but in the morning she told him everything that happened, and of course he was awake at this time, and he was freaked out by it, and he was sad and scared because he of course knew what it was. And to make it all worse, the scratchy feelings that she felt in her legs, she actually ended up with deep scratches all on both of her lower legs. So clearly this thing is jealous of him, it's attached to him. I don't know, but this is some freaky stuff. 2 nights later, something happens again. So of course they're sleeping, and then out of nowhere, well, I shouldn't say out of nowhere, Emilio was sleeping, and then he starts tossing and turning, moving his legs a lot as if he were having a nightmare. And he was conscious of this at the moment when he describes it afterwards. And then Kelsey, she got woken up by his moving around a lot, and she actually started to get worried that he might have been convulsing because it was just so much. And she was about to wake him up to get him out of this nightmare or night terror. And then the bed starts shaking violently. So she starts to get scared. Obviously, she starts trying to wake him up, but he won't wake up. And then he says that he actually felt himself leave his body. And then he was standing over top of her and him. And he could see everything that was going on. And he could see her freaking out and being scared. So at this moment, at the same time, Kelsey, she gets this very dark, ominous feeling as if someone else is in the room, but it's something that's not happy, so not something that's pleasant. And then she turns around and sees in the corner of the bedroom that there is this shadow manifesting in the corner, and she can obviously feel it glaring down at her. So she continues to try and wake him up. She's still freaking out, and then eventually he wakes up, but then he tells her, I think I was possessed because I could see everything that was going on. I could feel everything that was going on. And he ended up saying that it just felt angry and evil and how it attacks people. So after this encounter, he kind of had enough, and then he started to distance himself from people that he loves because he kind of figured that this thing is attacking people that he cares about or people that are getting too close to him. So he figured that if he can distance himself from them, they will be out of harm's way, essentially. So after he distanced himself from Kelsey, it actually never ended up bothering her again, which is a good thing, but it's kind of sad that he kind of had to go to those extreme lengths to separate himself from people that he loves and cares about. But I understand that now they're safe, which is a good thing. On the creepier side, he actually still feels drawn to the forest and specifically to the cabin in New Mexico, or the cottage that his family owns. I don't know why. Maybe it's because that was where his first encounter was, but he's still drawn to it, and he feels a little crazy because of it, but I don't know. Spooky supernatural forces at play here. All right, well, tell us how you feel about this episode, if you like creepy stories like this, or if you want us to do more 411 stories. Personally, I like the paranormal stuff, but we are open to everything. So come back for the next episode of Heebie Jeebies TV. Comment, like, subscribe.